It is a physical transformation. She did lose some weight, but to me, it was more so seeing her transform into a more confident person. My mom's, sorry, Mom, is 59, 60 years old. She's in the upper half of the age divisions, but seeing her transform into a more confident person and just wanting to improve herself for her granddaughter, my niece, and just create a better life for her and become healthier.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
I am an everyday athlete.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jared Bass with Mark McCain, and you are listening to Everyday Athlete, a podcast devoted to bringing you the amazing stories behind the lives of day-to-day CrossFit athletes like yourself. And we finally have Kelsey.
Dun, dun.
It's only been, how many times have we tried to put this together?
3, 4?
3 or 4? Yeah.
We could not avoid you anymore.
Yeah.
You're on here now.
This was, I think the first time Mark or Kelsey was sick, and then
I was sick.
and then Kelsey
And then
was
I was
sick.
sick.
Deathly sick.
Yeah, and then the third time we just lazily tried to get it together.
No,
Didn't
really, I
happen.
almost died.
Yeah.
I don't just glaze over that.
And then, so we finally, we're, this is definitely just orange juice. This is not mimosas.
Yes.
It's brunch time. We just had our mobility mimosas, and we got some leftover treats. So I'm sure this will be fantastic to listen to.
It's
What
gonna
is
be great.
mobility and mimosas?
It was,
that?
Stacy just came in and did a pretty awesome yoga class and made these amazing
Banana muffins?
banana no nut muffins, I guess is what you said.
Yeah. Nutless.
Nutless. You don't feel as bad when you eat 10 of them because they're tiny.
Yeah.
So, but it is nice to finally sit down and talk to Kelsey. I'm sure everyone is at the edge of their seat right now, wondering what's going to come out of your mouth. So,
Well, the mimosas
should be good.
should be good.
Should be good. So, I think the big thing to start with, I don't think a lot of people know that you're not actually from here, correct?
I'm not. So I born and raised in Granville, Massachusetts, which is not even on a map. Really small town, western half of Massachusetts, so not Boston, the other half of the state. Grew up there and came down here for college. So I went to Thomas More College and kind of fell in love with the people and the area and stayed.
How do you go from Massachusetts to Thomas More? How did you find Thomas More?
So I originally wanted to do forensic chemistry for my degree in college, and Thomas More is one of the few small schools that's accredited in it, and I wanted to try my luck at living alone away from the parents so they couldn't just pop in on a weekend, and so I looked out of state, and it was one of the few small schools I found.
What were your other choices? Did you have any kind of top ones?
Southern Wesleyan it's either in South or North Carolina. It's like on the border between the two of those. And then
I absolutely would have went there.
so actually, ironically, when I was looking at colleges, one of the things that I wanted was to be closer to a beach, and I am farther away from a beach than I was when I was growing up. So that happened.
Closer to a river, though.
Yeah.
I am a lot closer to a river.
Lake life. If you're from the Midwest, it's like, you guys want to go to the lake? What are you talking about? Just the lake. Swim in the pond. It's fine. Take a jet ski out or two. Well, that's very cool because I didn't actually know that part of it. I just knew you were from Massachusetts. So, and that is what you got your degree in, correct?
So I actually ended up getting my degree in chemistry because you can do more with a chemistry degree than a forensic chemistry degree. So the only difference between...
A little less broad.
Yeah, it's a little less broad, more pigeonholed in the forensics. But then I actually also got a bachelor's degree in psychology because psychology fascinates me. And so I decided to try and do all of that in 4 years. And
So you just for the fun of it, got a second degree?
Yeah, for funsies.
All right.
Okay.
That's
We have different degrees of fun.
Yep.
I will say that was definitely not how I would spend my college, but that was obviously you've always been very, very smart. So is that just something you were gravitated to? Like, oh, I really enjoy learning about this.
Yeah, so I ended up taking I was just purely a chemistry major and ended up taking intro to psychology because it's a liberal arts college and you have to take one of several different social sciences. And it was one that I took, and I fell in love with learning about how people think. And it might have been the professor, it might have been the topic, but it fascinated me. And so I sat down with my chemistry advisor and I said, I want to get a degree in psychology too. And he goes, you're crazy. And I said, well, I mapped it out, and if I take 18 to 21 credit hours for the rest of my 4 years, I can graduate in 4.5 years, and that's what I did.
How far along in college you decide that you wanted to do that?
Second semester freshman year.
Wow. It's very impressive.
I still don't know what I want to do.
I don't know what I want to do with my life.
It was just interesting, though.
That's super impressive, and I think that's a great place to start as far as just diving into some of that and where you're at now, and how that's maybe even crossed that stick-to-itiveness. And I know you got a background in you were a cheerleader, right?
Yep, I'd done a lot of the different sports.
Yeah.
I did competitive all-star cheerleading, so I went to nationals 3 times.
Competitive all-star cheerleading.
Yes.
I just watched Dodgeball last night, and they had that cheerleading part in that where they're in Las Vegas. It's like the pyramids and all that. Is that what that is?
Yes, that is what that is.
That is intense.
So jokingly, but it's actually pretty close to Bring It On, where they go and compete against other teams in being cheerful. Yeah.
Did you do like flips, and did they throw you and all that stuff? Or?
No. So I was surprised. I was this size from like 8th grade on. So I was the person that was lifting people. So I don't lift weights, I lift people. But now I lift weights.
Yeah.
We actually had a T-shirt for one of our nationals that said, "You lift weights, we lift people."
It's super interesting.
That's some smack talk right there.
It was.
Cheerleading smack talk if I've ever heard it.
How much glitter do you think you've used in your life?
A lot. A lot.
More than Tobias Fuke?
Yes.
I don't know who that is.
It's Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's a long shot for a joke.
Had to digress.
Especially Kelsey. She doesn't watch a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't.
So you're a Thomas More, and you get 2 degrees.
Yep.
And where do you go from there?
So from there, I actually was applying to jobs and got offered a job working as a data entry specialist for a pharmaceutical company in their quality control division. And they were like, we want you to start December 8th. And I was like, funny story, my finals week starts December 8th. They were like, well, you can start December 8th because we need you to start December 8th. And so I talked to my professors, and I did all my finals a week early so that I could start.
Jeez.
So I went from being a college student to living in the dorms, having never lived in an apartment or anything like that because I was an RA all through college too, I moved out, got an apartment, started a real job, all in 48 hours.
Shit got real.
Talk about like jumping headfirst into the real world. It was eye-opening and terrifying.
I'll bet, because you're 20, 21 at that time?
Yeah, I was 21, going on 22.
Yeah, that's not, usually not a time where people are getting serious about life. Yeah. And maybe that wasn't necessarily the plan, but obviously you kind of had to just jump in and, and handle things. It
was one of the things that I had to jump into anyways because I was graduating college. I liked the area. I knew I wanted to stay in this area. I couldn't just move back in with mom and dad, so I had to find a job to pay for an apartment. And so this is a little sad, but kind of funny now. When I moved into my apartment, I had no furniture. I'd lived in the dorms. They give you beds, they give you furniture, they give you desks, all of that. I was sleeping on the ground for 3 weeks until I got a mattress.
So you got a paycheck?
Until I got a paycheck and got a mattress.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You still have that mattress?
I do.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
There you go.
Not even an air mattress, just the floor.
No, it was the floor. I had one of those like 2-inch foam toppers that
fancy.
you get in college to put on top of the terrible mattresses that you have in college. I had that on the floor next to the heater in my apartment. It's great.
Very
started from the bottom.
Yes.
Now we're here.
And now we are here. Drinking
Is that the same? You're not at the same position, no?
So I started there doing data entry in a lab. If you know a lot about lab
Nope.
people, they are very introverted. Not so much me.
Sure.
So I couldn't deal with the quiet and doing data entry, and I actually I was working with one other person, and they would give us a list of things that we needed to do for the week, and we'd get it done on Tuesday.
Oh.
And since it was such a large company, like, they had to get approval for us to do other things. And working in pharmaceuticals, you have to be like trained in good manufacturing practices and like have certain training done in order to do things. And so I had to go through a lot of that. So it was a very slow going process, and I absolutely hated it. Hated my job. So I started looking at other jobs and found a job on LinkedIn for a clinical research coordinator at UC. I had no idea what clinical research was, had no idea what it was. Applied to it off of a whim because I was applying to absolutely everything because I did not want to be at that job anymore. And I got an interview, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to go. And my mom actually talked me into going. She was like, you're going to have to go on interviews. Go, use it as practice, even if you don't want the job. I walked out of the interview going, I want this job really, really, really bad. So I ended up getting offered the position within 24 hours of that interview. And within 48 hours of that interview, I had quit my job and accepted the position at UC. And I just like to do things very, very fast.
Do you go out in style or anything?
No.
You're very professional.
I was one of those professional. Well, I guess kind of style-ish. I hadn't fully accepted or been given my acceptance offer letter at UC when I quit my job. So there was a good 24 hours where I still hadn't gotten my offer letter from UC, where I was like,
but you kind of had an idea.
Yeah,
like
it was supposed to happen, but so I didn't actually have a technical offer when I quit my other job.
So what is that? You said you left that interview saying, wow, I really want this job. What was it about this job that you absolutely wanted, made you want to drive towards that?
So one of the things that I did while I was in college was get my EMT certification. And my sister was an EMT paramedic firefighter through college. And I kind of saw a little bit of what she did, and I really liked the idea of helping people. And leaving that interview, I found out that what I would be doing would be assisting physicians in their newest and greatest idea of how they're going to cure cancer, heart failure, whatever the disease process was, finding patients, enrolling them into those trials, kind of, if you will, being on the forefront of medicine and helping do the legwork for improving people's lives. And, I kind of got that idea, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to help people. And they also, throw in the little nice thing that I can go back to school and, if I want to get more degrees or get another degree or do any of that, it would have been included because I was working for the University of Cincinnati at the time, and government position, so that comes with government benefits, which are actually kind of nice. But, 2 years into that position, you find out that nights, weekends, holidays, it's a rough life to work, but I loved my job at UC.
Yeah.
Worked in the emergency department on clinical trials, so consenting patients into clinical trials, drawing blood, reading medical charts, doing all of that kind of stuff, and absolutely loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. And that brings you to where you're at now, correct?
Yes. So 2 years into that job, one of the unfortunate things with universities and academia is once somebody gets a position, a higher up position, they tend to not move or leave. And so,
gotcha. So they're going to ride it out?
Yeah. So they kind of ride it out as long as they can. And so it was one of those, sitting in the bottom of the totem pole, going through yet another 8 weeks of 12-hour night shifts and not being able to sustain that lifestyle. And I started interviewing at a CRO, or a clinical research organization, and CTI, which is where I work now. And essentially it's more management and less patient interaction than what I did before. but I'm helping to run the clinical trials that I was.
So definitely a step up then.
Definitely a step up, and no more nights and no more weekends.
I think just listening to that, realizing you were wildly smarter than both Mark and I.
Well,
In some
at least
things.
me.
In some things.
No, what I hear in that is just like your awareness of like, I really want this. I go after this. I get this. Even while you're going through that job or that whatever situation you're in, you're already identifying like, this is what I like about it. This is what I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're thinking about the next step. So that's like super duper, obviously important. That's one of the things, honestly, we struggle with at times with just business. You know, it's like, all right, hey, this is what we really like, but sometimes it's hard to see the next step or what is the next step. And obviously we're sitting here after a mobility and mimosas and trying these different things and so on and so forth. And, you know, but by and large, the through line, which obviously brought you into the fold with us, is I think you probably generally see like, wow, these guys actually want to help people.
Yeah.
And then that was one of the overwhelming things with you whenever you started down this career with all your degrees and stuff like that. It's like, you know what? All the schooling was great, but at the end of the day, I still want to help people.
Yes.
And these are the gifts that I've been given to help people. And I really, like I said, admire that. And like I said, that you can, obviously there's some crossover there with working out and, you know, having a stick-to-itiveness and, you know, we can obviously dive into some of that, but, you know, that's kind of what I take out from that initial story is that drive to keep going and figure out what you want.
Is that something you learned from family, or is that just something you've always had? Is that?
I think it's something I kind of learned from family. I grew up on a farm, and so it was one of those things that if you wanted something, you had to go out and do it, and it doesn't matter how you feel at 5 o'clock in the morning. You still have to get up and go take care of, 30 horses or cows. Like, the cows still need to get milked. Like, it doesn't matter how you feel or what you're going through. Things still need to happen, and I think that's where I got a lot of my determination and just kind of push forwardness.
Sure. So where does CrossFit come into play in your life? Because we've known each other now for quite some time, but recently bringing you on as a coach and seeing you develop as an athlete, it's been, again, pretty impressive. I think we had a photo not too long ago where it was just like one of your first couple months, and it's just like seeing your overhead position from then till now. You know? So how does CrossFit come into the fold for you?
So CrossFit's actually been a huge part of my life, and it's something that I'm very happy that I found. I was introduced to it briefly in college and kind of dabbled in it, and that's where I met you guys. And I actually struggled with anxiety and depression all throughout high school and a lot of college, and was on antidepressants. And CrossFit and working out gave me that outlet to de-stress and handle a lot of that.
I can't imagine getting 2 degrees would be stressful. I wonder where that came from.
I have no idea.
So, and that was 2000.
That was 2013. The summer of 2013 was the summer that I started CrossFit. Did the on-ramp at the Covington gym.
Second one?
The second one. So the second Russell Street location. Did the on-ramp there. Did it during the summer, a little bit through the fall and winter, but I also did track and field in college. So a lot of my CrossFit fell off when the track and field season started, and then I'd come back in the summer and do that and kind of just rotated through. And then I ended up stopping when I graduated college because, graduating and starting and moving out and all of that, it gets rough. And I realized then what CrossFit had meant to me in the amount of stress relief and just how good working out makes you feel. Like, it doesn't matter what you have going on outside of the gym. You walk into the gym, you work out, even if you do terrible in that workout, you're like, I feel good about myself because I just worked out.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And you did, yeah, exactly. And I think that's been a through point for everybody is, again, what this place means, and whatever your gym is, what it means to you is usually it's that place that you can go and de-stress and not have to worry about a phone call from your boss or an email that you're going to be getting, because you have this hour that you can shut your mind off and just work out.
And that's exactly what it was. It was an hour to turn off my brain. When you do that much in college and even after college, your brain goes at a mile a minute. And having that time to just completely turn off your brain was great.
I think that's one of the hardest parts with getting people to understand that, is whenever they haven't experienced that before. So like you just mentioned, like, hey, I experienced it for a while and then life got busy, but then I realized something was missing.
Yes.
I think there's so many people out there that just don't even realize what they're missing. You know, and again, that's whether it's a program like CrossFit or whatever. You know, we just had a great yoga session in here. You know, just anything physical in life, you know, you need stimulated. I just recently saw a study. There's like 25% of Americans don't even go outside, so they're in constantly like climate-controlled environments. Whether they leave their house from their garage, and whenever they get to work, they get out of their car in a garage. And, you know, not even really experience sunlight.
Not climate controlled.
This is not climate. I'm sweating a little bit.
I'm sweating a lot. But, you know, where I'm going with that is just, you know, again, and it doesn't have to be anything more than, you know, just getting outside maybe for a little bit for some people, but especially whenever you're engaging in, you know, a high intensity functional program, you experience certain things, whether that's just that stress relief or endorphins and so on and so forth, and just a higher quality of life at the end of the day. Because now, you know, maybe you did have a hard day at work, but and you come here after work, or you engage in something physical, you know, physical fitness after work, and then you can maybe go home and you avoid a fight with the spouse, or you avoid like this depression, you know, that's looming for a lot of people.
It gives you an outlet.
Absolutely, yeah, in a community.
You know,
and that's a hard thing to match sometimes.
Is huge. I mean, I moved down here from Massachusetts, and I don't think if it wasn't for CrossFit and the CrossFit community that I found, I don't know that I would have survived as well down here by myself, because, I mean, you guys are my family.
Yeah.
This is my family. I'm here. I spend any time that I'm not at my day job usually here. And then I go home and rinse and repeat. Mm-hmm. And it's
there you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree. This is the we've said it ad nauseum at this point, but it's the amazing thing is seeing people completely on the same playing field, regardless of their situation in life. It's pretty awesome to see.
Yes.
You know, whether you are doing clinical studies, or a principal, or a doctor, or an electrician, or a plumber, doesn't matter. You are on this level playing field across the board. And you get to, you know, see people interact that you would never interact. Some of my better friends and the people you meet along the way are from a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
And again, it sounds silly until you're in it, and then you're like, oh yeah, I totally see that.
Yeah. There are several people that I didn't realize that were like huge vice presidents of companies or doctors or anything like that. I mean, you're in the gym, you're encouraging the person next to you, they're encouraging you, and you're all on the same playing field, and you're all just athletes in the gym together. And you start to realize them outside of the gym, and you're like, oh, like, you're a big deal.
Yeah.
Like,
but
your face is on that billboard.
Right.
I saw Keith Law's face on the back of a bus the other day.
Right. Yep.
Dental Center of Florence. If you haven't seen that
shameless plug.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, and if only it was like that in every scenario in life. You know what I mean? As far as like having the playing field equal, and just understanding maybe a little deeper, and like, hey, you know, it's not always about like the status update and this liking and all this shit, you know. So again, I don't want to open up that, but I do love that CrossFit breaks down those walls. So and you can even go from a racial perspective too, right? It's like doesn't matter, you know, whatever, you know, your ethnicity is in this moment. Like, we're all just trying to breathe and pick this thing up, or get on a box. And there's not
or cheer each other on.
Yeah. Just get it, you know, together. But anyway, it's just one of those things that, again, like I was saying, if you don't realize you're missing it, like if you never have experienced it, you don't realize you're missing it. And
I want to take a quick break. I want to come back and talk about a couple things. I want to talk about A, just you as a trainer, B, being a female trainer, because obviously Mark and I are not. And then
Some days I question.
And then how CrossFit is kind of come into your family as well. So,
Yeah.
all right, we'll be right back. All right, and we are back. Scene. With the new mimosas and less banana bread. We're back. We did leave talking about how kind of getting into CrossFit and how it's impacted your life. I do want to talk a little bit about how becoming a trainer has shifted maybe your mindset. Because, you know, one of the things that when we brought you on, it was obviously a very conscious effort to bring someone like yourself on. Like everything that, even though we didn't know about your past and having 2 degrees and all this stuff, we saw it, if that makes sense. And there's a reason that we brought you on, and you bring a perspective just truly as a female that Mark and I cannot bring. And I don't know if you've seen that or maybe inadvertently seen that, or for example, there's just going to be certain conversations that I'm not going to be able to have with a female member.
True.
So I don't know if you've seen it, and you don't have to like give specific examples maybe, but I think there's maybe a little insight to what it's like to be a female CrossFit trainer.
So honestly, I didn't notice it until
Until I said something?
No, it was probably like the open. You know, before that I was just trying to figure out what being a coach meant to me, and what coaching was. And then, you know, towards the open, I started to see, you know, how much of a impact that I can make as a female coach, because there aren't very many of us in comparison to, you know, the male coaches that are out there. And I can provide a different perspective to the other women in the gym that, sorry, Mark, Jarrett, you just don't have.
No, we don't. And I think a big part of that is it comes down to, I think, I would say body issues.
Yeah.
And body image, maybe not issues, just body image in general.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, I think I have body image, I don't say problems, but I it's like if I have a bad weekend of drinking mimosas and eating banana bread, I'm gonna like, all right, maybe I'll be a little more hesitant. But I don't think people see that, and I think it's more outwardly expressed with women.
Yes, I think it is more outwardly expressed with women, especially in today's day and age with social media, where people seem to not have an issue sitting behind a keyboard and body shaming other people, which I take a huge issue with. If you're in here working on yourself, then that is all I care about. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care if you have a 6-pack. I don't care if you can deadlift 300 pounds. I care that you are in here trying to better yourself or for your family, whatever your motivation is. And I really kind of saw myself develop more as a female trainer and get into a little bit more of that side. We did the live announcements of the Open, where I faced off against another coach, and Susan Blake's daughter said, "She looks strong, Mom. I want to be like her." Mm. And that is the purest thing that I have ever heard. And when I heard that, it kind of made me cry a little bit, because I think her daughter is 7 or 8, younger. I could be completely off on the age, but I want to say
she's got 2 girls.
I don't remember which one it was that said.
One's probably 12 and one's probably 8.
Yeah, I think it was the 8-year-old who said it, and it's that made me realize it, because at the age of 7 or 8 years old, you don't care that you don't have a 6-pack. Like, you don't care what you look like. You look at, you know, somebody, you say they're strong, I want to be like them, or you see what they can do or what they're doing, and you're impressed by that. You're not impressed by their waist line, or
or their Instagram followers.
Their Instagram followers. Like you don't care about any of that. You care about the effort that they're putting in. And I think that humanity lost in somewhere in that, middle age of life where we change our focus from, being strong and powerful women to needing to fit into some mold that society says that we need to fit into.
I think that's one of the biggest impact CrossFit is having on the world as a whole, and obviously you can talk gender specific to just women, but men to a certain extent, where men might be sold this like bodybuilder style physique, and now they're like, I don't know if I want to look like that. I just want to look like I'm fit.
Right.
Where women were sold this like Victoria's Secret, model.
Can't be too muscular because that's
right.
intimidating. You can't be.
But now it's. You look at the CrossFit women, and they're beautiful and they're strong, and there's nothing wrong with having a little muscle, and at the end of the day, not to mention it's like, who's gonna want to mess with that girl, in a scenario where, let's be real, bad things happen to men or women.
Yes.
But whenever you can actually handle yourself and have muscle and maybe fight off an attack or something like that, it's even more pertinent to feel and engage in physical activity.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's something that CrossFit has kind of developed is this ulterior mold of you don't need to be this standard woman, whatever. Mm-hmm. You can be strong, you can be powerful, you can take care of yourself. You don't have to be dependent on anything or anybody else.
And it's opened the doors for a lot of other sports.
Yes.
It really has, because you look at even just powerlifting. It's a whole different world of strength, but you have females getting into powerlifting, and
Olympic
that's
lifting.
the whole nother Olympic weightlifting. It's a whole nother set of strength skills.
Yes.
It's not just how many pull-ups you can do. You can deadlift 400, 500 pounds off the floor and still be feminine.
Yeah, you can be feminine and not look, quote unquote, bulky.
Let's talk about that for a minute. That's a legitimate. So, and I joke that I've tried to look bulky for the last 10 years. It's not easy.
It's not.
It takes a lot to get to that level to where, you might think that, oh, that's just too much. For whatever reason, we've been thrown this BS idea that if I touch a barbell, I'm gonna have traps up to my ears. It takes a lot and a lot of work to completely shift your body and your the way your body is shaped into something you would consider bulk, in that word bulky.
Yes.
I don't know where it came from. I think it's just a stigma of weightlifting, and guys have to lift weights and girls have to do
shop
Pilates.
for shoes.
Yeah, it's so silly. It really is. And I think our gym dynamic here is, if not 60-40, we're pretty darn close, 60-40 women to men.
Yes.
And it is really cool to see, a group of women especially bring each other up rather than knock each other down. And I feel like that's harder and harder to come by.
It's so hard to come by because, I'm sorry, ladies, but we can be petty.
Guys can be petty too. It's more like guys can just bury the hatchet easier.
But
I'll go buy you a beer.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'm gonna flatten your tires.
But it is very nice seeing a community of women stand behind each other and support each other, versus comparing each other, or trying to one up one another. And the idea of being bulky, since I started CrossFit, I haven't lost weight, but I've lost sizes. And sorry, that the knee doesn't seem bulky.
Yeah. I don't know. Someone was talking about their BMI the other day.
It was me.
My BMI says I'm obese. And
According to my BMI, I am overweight.
Stupid.
That BMI, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was obese.
Yes.
Jason Khalipa he was on years ago, before he was really open up gyms left and right, when he was still pretty competitive as far as CrossFit Games concerned. His insurance rates went up because he was obese.
Yep.
Because
Fittest man in the world.
Yeah, because they, it's like they look at that number and they go, well, he's
well, you're 5'8", 210, so
Yeah.
you're obese.
Yeah.
It's like, no, he's shredded.
yeah.
Yeah,
Look
no,
at
it's
him.
muscular.
That's just a whole.
Guy
like
has
I
an
said,
arm that's my quad. It's like it's unreal.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of plays into the bulky and the perceptions, is a lot of like the BMI and those scales don't take into account for muscle mass.
Yeah.
And when you don't take into account for those things, you start having doctors tell patients that you're overweight, and then they look at the patient and they go, oh wait, no, you're not overweight, like you just are athletic.
Yeah.
And then you have to start making exceptions.
One of the things I like a lot about, since we are in the midst of CrossFit regionals right now, and we're going to be moving into the games, and this came up last year actually. I forget which female it was. She was actually too she was actually too shredded. Like she needed to actually have more fat on her body because she ran out of energy.
Yeah.
Fat is energy.
Yes.
And it's like they looked at Rich Froning in his last year that he won the games, and he's like, he probably walks around at like 10%.
Yeah.
He just has a lot of muscle mass on top of it. It's like, one of the things I like about CrossFit is like, hey, you need fat.
You do.
It's not this like, oh, you got to be down to 6%. Like, no, you'll feel awful.
Yeah.
And you will perform terribly. So it's cool to see. Getting a little bit off in the weeds, but just seeing a fitness regimen that like supports eating your fat. Like you got to have some.
I kind of hope that in the future the CrossFit ideal of like you need to have a body fat percentage that is not in the single digits. But you also don't want a large body fat percentage. Goes into the medical side where they actually start looking at body fat percentages and using that as a way to determine if somebody is obese or overweight.
Sure.
Because I think personally to me that would be more accurate. Like,
Yeah, BMI is bullshit.
It is.
Let's be honest.
Let's be what it is.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, so I like that idea, and I think let's just be realistic, with the clients that we're training, and again, bodybuilders are usually that 2, 3, 4, 5% would be a big bodybuilder.
Right.
That sub 5 is getting into that such an elite style of
and mind you,
nutrition,
those guys
and
feel awful.
Yes.
Yeah.
They feel terrible.
And they're usually only at that low body fat percentage the week or
Right.
around
Yeah,
the show
cutting,
that they're
cutting
doing.
and they dehydrate and all that stuff.
Desalinated water.
Yeah.
And again,
All
I'm
that.
not experienced with bodybuilding, but to Jared's point, there's definitely a diminishing return with the CrossFit community. And again, everyone's got different goals. There's a goal board behind us, or I should say Jarrett, on that side. And one of the goals by a member is literally, so there's a goal, complete it by, plan of attack, and then complete it. And it just is his name and don't die.
Yep.
It doesn't get much more real than that. So, it's one of those things where it's great to have ambitions of, I want to be under 10% body fat.
Yep.
Or
And that's not a joke that,
right. No,
It's a real statement.
I
serious.
know that we all obviously know that individual, and he's actually been on the show before. And that's what I love about my job. It's not like, all right, client, we're going to get you from 9% down to 5%. And if that's a goal and I can help them facilitate that, absolutely. But I want to know the why, obviously, behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably should be some type of bodybuilding physique. And at that point, I might refer them out to someone that's a little more specialized. But when we're looking at taking people that are just on the couch and eating a lot of carbohydrates to able to perform a 4-range of motion squat, to eating a little more lean meats and good vegetables and some healthy fats, and see their energy levels rise and their cholesterol at a healthy range, and maybe even lowering the resting heart rate, and actually plugging them into a community so they can experience a little more laughter and have fun and do things like a golf outing and go to a night of bowling, which we just did. And that's what life's about. Let's be honest. And I think the CrossFit, what they do from a sport is amazing, but that is drastically different than what we do on a day-to-day basis here.
I actually compare this. A lot of people look at me when I say that I do CrossFit and they go, oh, so you do what they do on TV. Like, that's crazy. I could never do that. And I go, the way that I like to put it is, it's trying to compare the NFL to Pee Wee football.
I always say if you think of it like that, it's like playing a pickup game of basketball against LeBron James.
Yes.
Like you're not going to score.
No.
You're not even going to get a shot off.
Yep.
It's such a different level, and
it's rec league basketball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're doing it for us.
We're doing it for us. We're doing it for fitness. We're doing it for fun.
And it's fun to do the open and be like, wow, did you see that person? They got 100 rounds, and I only got 5, but
it's a good benchmark.
That's what's like you said, it's a good benchmark. But at the same time, and again, you get caught up in this comparison kind of world, and it's like, well, I suck, or whatever it is. No, like last year you got 3 rounds, this year you got 5, so like you're getting better.
Yep. So speaking of the open, we just talked that your mom did her first open this year?
Second open.
Second open.
Wow.
So it's her second open. She just completed her first year of CrossFit. She started just before the open last year, and actually did the open last year. Somehow, miraculously, I talked her into doing the open, and I'm really glad that she did.
She actually did it.
She did it. And completed it. And then this year, I actually was fortunate enough to do one of the open workouts with my mother, which was one of the greatest things in the entire world. But seeing my mom,
I'm jealous,
transform. I got to work out with her in a second.
And this transformation. So I'm assuming, because again, I feel like I know where you're going to go with this. It's not a physical. It is a physical transformation, but more so.
It is a physical transformation. She did lose some weight, but to me, it was more so seeing her transform into a more confident person. My mom's, sorry, Mom, is 59, 60 years old. She's in the upper half of the age divisions, but seeing her transform into a more confident person and just wanting to improve herself for her granddaughter, my niece, and just create a better life for her and become healthier. She started CrossFit because she started having issues getting out of bed in the morning, like just having back pain getting out of bed in the morning. And I was like, you need to, I bet you it's because you don't have the muscling.
You mean to tell me she lifted weights and it didn't kill her?
It did not. It made her stronger. Right? Well, I had a conversation with her where, she was having some back issues, and she'd been big into yoga and doing some of those kinds of things. And, she grew up on a farm, rides horses. And I honestly thought it was because she didn't have enough muscling to support herself in what she was doing.
Sure.
And so I talked her into starting CrossFit for just a little while and just see if it improves. And it improved. And she lost a lot of weight. She called me one day because she called me and she said, I finally lost you. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? She said, I finally lost all of the baby weight that I gained when I had you.
Only took me.
It only took me
That's funny.
26 years. But
that's pretty awesome.
And that was amazing. And just seeing her be healthier and look healthier, look happier. Like you can see pictures of her from last year to this year, and she just looks like a happier person. But even on a bigger note than my mom starting CrossFit and doing all of that, this past year I got my dad to start CrossFit, which I'm super excited about, and I hope he's as equally excited about it. But
and I just saw a video of him deadlifting.
Yes.
Correct? Is that him?
Yeah, he just deadlifted 275 for 2, and it looked super easy.
Nice.
But so he started just before the Open this year. I was not as successful in talking him into doing the Open this year as I was my mother, but he gave the one answer that I was going to accept as a excuse not to do the Open, and it was, I can't do the movements with a PVC pipe. Why am I going to do the Open? And I was like, all right,
that's valid.
I have no arguments to that.
Yeah.
Right.
But so he started CrossFit. He's always run. He can run a 5K. He's run half marathons. He used to do powerlifting, some of those kinds of things, but fell off of a ladder 14 or 15 years ago and broke his hip and has 3 screws in his hip, and was having trouble squatting, having trouble. He'd say that he'd squat, and then the next day he just couldn't walk. It's like, my hip just hurts.
Yeah.
And so
it's a pretty good reason why you wouldn't want to do it then.
Yeah, really good reason why. And I mean, he'd always just gone to Globo gyms and done, his own thing, and I was like, well, why don't you just start doing CrossFit? Like, just give it a shot. You and Mom can do it together. It can be something that you guys do together. Started doing CrossFit mainly because he had some issues with lab work, and went back probably 2 months afterwards, had his labs redone, and was told that he didn't need to go on any heart medication.
Wow.
2 months?
2 or 3 months.
Wow.
So there's hope.
So there's hope. Like, you go from having a doctor tell you that if you don't do something to improve your life, you're going to need to be on medications to sustain your life, and work out for 3 months and get told that you look great. And that, to me, is the biggest win that CrossFit has ever given me.
Yeah.
Is not the wins that you see in transformation pictures, not the wins that you see in PRs or on PR boards or on Instagram. It's the improving somebody's life to where you don't need to be dependent on medication.
I think that's one of the, what I hear there too is, like, obviously with your parents, it's personal. And I think that can absolutely be what takes a good coach to a great coach, is whenever you make it personal. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
Like, whenever you truly make it personal, that, hey, I'd like to think that all of our staff here takes it personal whenever our clients come into the door, and we have an hour to make them better.
Mm-hmm.
At a minimum, not get them hurt.
Yes.
And we take that very personal, very seriously. And, like I said, there's hope still for this aging population that, guess what, hey, you're 59, 60. Let's be honest, like, by the end of our lifetime, there's going to be people living well into their, 90s, over 100 years old. More common, just with obviously the way technology and medicine is going. But not only that, just healthy living in general.
Yeah.
I think we're figuring out, like, hey, I probably shouldn't eat McDonald's 5 times a day, or I probably shouldn't eat all this processed stuff. And, just this movement that CrossFit is really spurring on. And I'm so glad that we got to share that, with your mom and dad. Because personally, I would love for, my parents to get involved in some type of program. Obviously CrossFit, they live 4 hours away, but for me, in the small town there, I don't even know if there's really a gym, but just being able to maybe go up and show them, hey, look, here's our trainer Kelsey. She got her parents to do it, and guess what? They're healthier for it, and they got off medication. So I love that.
I think that's a good place to wrap things up, but I do want to ask your definition of fitness. What is Kelsey's definition of fitness? I think you pretty much said it with your parents, but
yeah, it's essentially just being able to do the things that you want to do in your life, and being physically, mentally, and emotionally fit, or in a good place, and that's what fitness is to me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for finally sitting down and stop avoiding us. So
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks,
it.
Kelsey.
I couldn't avoid you any longer.
Most is help.
Yeah, they do.
Thank you all for listening to Everyday Athlete. Join us next week as we dive deep into the lives of those who make us great. Thanks again.
Kelsey.